All right. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Wine, Women, and Words. I am Michelle. With me, of course, is Diana.
Hello.
And this morning, afternoon, evening, depending on which person you're talking about on the show, we are with author Sofia Robleda. We're going to be talking about her novel, Daughter of Fire, which I have been reading, and it's just absolutely magical. I've been like knee deep in romantasy and fantasy books, and this is the first historical fiction book I read in many moons, and I'm just absolutely loving it. So thank you so much for coming to hang out with us today. We're very happy to have you with us.
Oh, thank you so much for your really kind words. That's really exciting.
And I'm kind of jealous of Michelle because I was like, okay, I'm looking forward to reading it and I have it saved for the audiobook version.
Yes.
The book doesn't come out until right now, as we record this, it's next week. So by the time everybody listens to it, it'll already be out. And Michelle was like, oh, I'm reading it now. It's so magical. I was like, wait. How did you get a copy? I just saw Amazon First Reads. And I was like, oh yeah, shoot.
Yes. Yeah, so it
We
has
know
been out.
people.
Yeah, for yeah, it has been out for since the start of July and in Kindle. So that's been exciting and a very strange experience to kind of be in but not in, you know. Yes. So nerve-wracking to say the least.
Yeah, I can understand nerve-wracking, but it's also like exciting. And I know the first reads is a big deal. We've got some other friends who are also Amazon published through Lake Union. And
Mhm.
they also have they've talked about the first reads and how it's a big deal. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yes, it's a huge boost, and kind of gets the book out there to so many people. And so it's really nice, I guess, as a debut to kind of get that because obviously it's just luck of the draw. Like I just they happened to pick it, and it's just been really, really so nice to have that kind of bang into into the publishing world in a good way.
Yes, in a very good way.
Yeah.
And the advice, before we forget, the advice that we tell all the debuts that are on the podcast that we pass on to you is drink plenty of water.
Yes,
And
hydrate.
yes, hydration is key and enjoy every minute of it because you only get to be a debut author once and it's such a fun and special ride.
Yeah, I think so. I think, it's been definitely a bit up and down, but I've kind of the last week was a bit more down because I was a bit more kind of panicky about it for some reason. Just I don't know, like it's just you can't help it. I think it's just the adjustment to having people actually reading the book and like having
Mhm.
opinions and
Mhm.
just kind of you have a pretty thick skin by the time you get to being a published author. I mean, at least I've had so many rejections that you just have to kind of grow a thick skin. But like to actually have all these people kind of with all sorts of good, middle, bad opinions. And so it's just, yeah, I think last week was my adjustment week. And this week is just more like, okay, like it's just let's just have fun. Like that's it. And I'm really at that stage of just enjoying it and looking forward to the party.
Good, yeah. And then thick skin, it's such a that phrase I get it's a phrase I'm not particularly fond of because as a creative, you don't really have a thick skin. It's how much you show a bad review like on the outside, like how much you let it affect you. Where
Mhm.
are you going to lash out at your colleagues, at the people around you? Are you going to laugh it off? I know Michelle is one of the people where if I received a particularly bad review, she's the first person I message, and we just start. I don't want to say we're making fun of it, but it turns
It's
into a
a
good
it's a
laugh.
process. You have to,
Yes.
you have to let
Yes.
it work its way through your system and
Yes.
and
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That's exactly what happened yesterday
Mm.
with this one because I've had some, and I mean I have to say just in case people are listening, that, like lots of them have been really really good. And most of them have been really, really good. And so it's just kind of also like, why is it those ones that kind of prick hit you? You know, like why do they affect you? Like why is it like 100 of them are, oh, you know, they just kind of sit there, but there's that one. And you know, so yesterday I sent it to my friends because I was in a bit of a rage about it.
Mhm.
Also because they kind of, this person was like, oh, I can see why it was free. Like it was so bad, you know? And I was like, it's not free
Oh,
because it's bad. It's an editor's pick, you know? And I was
girl.
like, you don't understand.
My debut, somebody wrote in a review, it was a good first draft for a high schooler.
Oh, no,
Yeah, and I was like, "Are you effing kidding?" And I was with my husband. We were at the San Diego Zoo when we read that, and I was like, "What the hell?" And he was just like, he just started cracking up, and he was
Yes.
like, "Let's look at the," and he was like, "Let's look at the ridiculousness of the situation." And so often there are those who are just like, there's this trend of reviewers just like, I'm just not gonna like anything. Let's just tear others down. And there's truly cases where there are reviews where the book isn't your thing. They're
Mhm.
stepping out of their comfort zone and they don't like it and they're trying it
Mhm.
out. And it was like, oh, like this reviewer, they read hardcore romance, smut, and then they picked up my first book, which was very much historical fiction. And
Mhm.
even though there was a romance element to it, it was still historical fiction.
Yeah.
So it wasn't her cup of tea.
Mhm.
And that's understandable and that's okay because everybody has
Yeah.
those books that just aren't for them.
Yeah. And my
And
friend actually said to me yesterday, she's like, it just wasn't their cup of tea because you're champagne, darling.
I love that. I
I
love
love
that
that.
phrase.
And literally, I was like, yeah, that's exactly it. Champagne.
Yes, you are
I
champagne.
love
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So I literally just like, and that's what I need to do. I just need to just like get some perspective and have some friends just help me kind of through that.
Mhm.
Like you
Mhm.
say, Michelle, just kind of let it work itself out my system. And
Yeah.
now it's out, and now that's it. Like I feel fine again. But I think that, you know, it's a new thing. It's definitely new to
Yeah,
go
that's
through
why
this.
so many authors just they don't read the reviews and
Mhm.
they don't like I stopped going on Goodreads, but like don't read the reviews. And I know there was like this topic, I think on Threads. I shared it like it was a while ago, but like I had said like just don't read the reviews and somebody was like, "Well, you should because like you get honest feedback, honest criticism." It's like not really. Like there can be some honest criticism where there's some where I'm like, okay, yeah, I can see that. I did that. All right, maybe in the next book I won't. But like you have beta readers, you have editors, you have your agent that will give you the unbiased, honest feedback where you already know that you're in a safe space.
Yeah, and they have your best interests at heart. Like these
Hmm.
people, you know, this was a product to them and they didn't like the product. And
Yeah.
it's like, you know, it's not, it's, you know, and that's also, you know, maybe not taking it so personally, but like at the end of the day, they're not looking at this from a critical eye. They're just looking at it from I didn't like it. So,
Hmm.
you know,
Mhm.
and
From
I do
an
think, yeah.
entertainment aspect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. And you're right that there's people that just are out there just to tear other people down too. So
Mhm.
like I think I'm getting to that point where I'm just not gonna read it. You know? It's like okay, it's just kind of plateauing now. Like it's getting to the point where like, okay, there's just so many that it's just like this is probably just the average. I've read from like all of them so
Uh-huh.
far. And now I'm just like, okay, I don't see how I can get any more from this. Like it was also interesting and like curious, you know, like I was really curious about it. And I think that's also normal. I can see how that would be like, okay, my book's out there. Like I've never had people read it. Like what do people think, you know?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I think that's just natural as well. But there's a point where I think it's also like, yeah, you do have to just shut it off because it's like it's not really helpful to you if it's affecting you. And I think that's it. Like Diana's not like the thick skin is just more like we are sensitive people. I mean, we wouldn't be able to kind of write books if we didn't feel deeply and like so I just think yeah that it's more about okay, you kind of can roll with the punches and get it out of the system. Like Michelle saying, you have a process for working through this, but you still feel things, you know.
Mhm.
It's like a filter. You have to apply a filter.
Yeah. Now that we've talked all around the book, let's actually talk
Yes.
about
Oh yeah, sorry.
for those who are not familiar with it, let's give a little bit of a synopsis of what the book is about.
Okay, the Achilles heel of every author having to describe their book, but um, but yeah, my book is a historical fiction. It's based on real events that happened in 16th century Guatemala. It's about a young half Maya, half Spanish girl who is tasked with this quest of preserving a real document, the Mayan Book of Creation called the Popol Vuh, and so this did happen. You know, some Mayan nobles in the 16th century after the conquest got together and wrote down their creation myths and set them down, but no one really knows who wrote them. So mine is kind of like a reimagining of these events and the people who preserved this crucial piece of literature and myths. So yeah, that's kind of a nutshell about it. There's a bit of magical realism. There's a bit of romance as well, but like Diana's saying, not it's not kind of hardcore romance. It's primarily a historical fiction, but within the kind of Latin American tradition, using kind of magical realism and those elements as well. Yeah.
And I love magical realism. And when it comes to historical fiction, I think the genre right now is kind of having going through some changes. It's having growing pains and changes as a genre, but I feel like the magical realism is really what's going to, I feel like, save the genre overall, in my opinion. Where I love magical realism. I love Isabel Allende, Italo Calvino. Those are my two favorite magical realism authors. And just um, and so like having like the magical realism within historical fiction, I think is such a wonderful thing.
Oh, thank you. Well, yeah, I enjoyed it. I didn't know like how else to kind of write it. I've always I'm like, yeah, well, yeah, of course, there's going to be ghosts and gods and things like that. But it's just kind of like part of our culture. So I think, it's just kind of, oh, I didn't kind of set out to write it like that, but that's just kind of how it poured out of me. And I think originally, well, my first two never published novels. The
We
ones
all
that
have
didn't
those.
make it,
We all
yes.
do. They'll never see the light of day.
The ones in the
Only a few
drawer.
people. Michelle knows of them, but like she's the only one who knows of them, and that's it. That's the way it's going to stay.
Yeah. So these were like they were full on fantasy novels as well. So like so I'm not even going to talk about them. It's just they need to stay in the drawer. But they were kind of fantasy novels, and so it's always kind of been I think like an important part of my creative uh, personality just to have those elements. So it was kind of nice to be able to put that in there. Yeah.
And like I feel like when it comes to mythology, it's really and folklore too, mythology and folklore together. Because I know there, for those of you who have not studied, don't know the difference between the two who are listening, mythology, you've got things like it's based on like the religion of a people. Whereas folklore are the stories, like you have the Fae, you have um, I guess in America, Rumpelstiltskin, which is, I guess, technically would be a fairy, but like things of witches, those sorts of things, those would be part of like the folklore mythology would be like gods, goddesses, creation stories, etc. And I feel like when it comes to exploring a culture, it's not just the culture's history, it's things like their food, their mythology, their folklore. And I feel like integrating that into historical fiction in a novel is really a wonderful way of being able to explore that culture in and of itself.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, like if you're kind of thinking historical fiction, um, well, it's been really quite Eurocentric, the kind of
Mhm.
stuff that people generally think about World War II. And if you kind of think about the 16th century, is basically lots of the Tudors and the Medicis and,
Mhm.
fascinating people and eras, but like we can't really know those stories now. They've been told so many times. And if we kind of want to branch out and explore other people and other cultures that were around at the same time, we also have to look at those aspects of those cultures as well. Because that's what happens when you write, isn't it? You have to kind of bring up the world, and that is part of this role,
Mhm.
especially if you're kind of telling a story about a creation story, which is what I
Mhm.
did. I can't just leave out the fact that there's gods and goddesses and incredible things happening in these stories. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
And oh,
there was a
sorry.
religion before there was Christianity. There were other religions out there, and there are other religions currently out there that are not Christianity. So we need to be able to explore those.
Exactly. I think so. Yeah.
And historical fiction is such a, a great way to introduce people. Oops, okay, sorry. My whole screen just went black for a second. I was like, okay, I won't say anything. Um, but historical fiction is such a great way, like you mentioned, that history doesn't know who created those that creation story, um, but to be able to use historical fiction to fill in the gaps of what we know and we don't know, and share the that story, share that culture to people who may have, who have no idea or have very little knowledge of it.
Yeah.
It's such a great way to let people learn about peoples and places and cultures that they've never experienced
Yeah.
firsthand.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like half the history I know is because I've read a historical fiction book. And then I went and I did my own research because it was so fascinating to me. And, just kind of bringing it alive, understanding that obviously it's fiction, but it's based on true things. And it's been, well, at least I heavily researched the book and the historical
Mhm.
parts. And there's many actual events in that book that did take place and people that were real people. Um, and so then, one of the things that I was enjoying about reading the reviews was people kind of saying, I've never, I don't know much about the history, I don't know much about the culture, but I'm really interested now. And I've been looking it up and I've been going and doing my own research. And that's just also really, really lovely to kind of spark that interest in people.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And let's delve into the research that you did for the novel. What were your resources to be able to bring the story to life?
Yeah, so obviously I had the Popol Vuh, the translation into English by this professor Alan Christensen, who I then contacted, and I had lots of chats with him about. He actually read the one of the drafts and kind of provided just so many
Oh,
notes. He read the
cool.
whole thing. He read it in like a day, and I'm not joking that he was like, I've read lots of stories about the 16th century Guatemalan government and the Popol Vuh, and like this is the only one I've ever liked, which I thought was just like really good.
That's
And
wonderful.
yeah, it
That's
was really,
wonderful.
really good. And I'm not joking, like this man gave me just so many notes. Like every page was like an essay. Just so wonderful that he took so much time and care with it. But that was like a later stage. Like one of the obviously I read lots of books. I read had my own kind of textbooks that I read and research articles that I looked into. And then I also went to Guatemala and did my own kind of solo trip there. I visited lots of museums there. I went to every place that is in the book. Um, and this was right like the 2 weeks before the whole country shut down for COVID. So I was just super lucky that I got to go. Um, and actually kind of see and do like the actual research that I wanted to do in the ground. And because obviously like I am from Mexico, but they're different countries, and even though we have overlapping histories and language and a lot of cultures, and there's Mayan people in Mexico as well, there are differences, and I'd never been to Guatemala, so I really, really, really wanted to see it for myself. Um, So yeah, so that was kind of really great. And this professor as well, he's an expert in the Quichua Maya language, so he was able to kind of give me really exactly how to spell things. So there's like different spellings. They have like the old way they used to spell and the new way they used to spell. So he was just a gold, like he was just gold. Like he helped me every single time I emailed him. I was like, "Hi, here's another question for you. Can you please help me again?" And he just was so kind and patient. I'm like so indebted to him. Yeah. Yeah.
Historians are such treasures because they do a lot of the heavy lifting, and like you were saying earlier, where you read and then you get interested and they go and do their own research. So it brings people into the story. Um, and it's so wonderful. And I love how when you're writing, it's just don't I'm trying not to be distracted by adorable Addie under that.
Yeah, there's literally a dog just joined and
Yeah, it's like coming in with a puppy. Oh,
He's so cute.
um,
We have a
but yeah,
thunderstorm, and she hates thunder, so she's
Oh,
like
bless. Oh,
poor
freaking
baby.
out.
sweetie. Oh. But no, then I see, yes, definitely. They do all they did all the heavy lifting. I had like a really great book. I don't have it with me here, but it was like um the title is really, it's not very nice. It's like basically slavery and mistreatment of the indigenous people in 16th century Guatemala. Like it's literally like and it's a whole textbook, and um uh so I read that cover to cover. It was just really, really good. Just everything, and a lot of the scenes in my book, the description of the Catalina's father, who's kind of the main antagonist. I got from that book. Some quotes in the book. He actually said them in real life, like that I got from that book. And so that was a really good, really great find. So I was really pleased with that. Because obviously there's not really much. 16th century Guatemala is an incredibly niche like,
I
place
understand the feeling. I've been
to
there. I've been
write
there
about.
already. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like, can I get anything from here? Yeah, so yeah, so that was good.
So one other thing that Michelle, kind of foreshadowed in the conversation that I think we want to chat about is that Sophia, you and I share a wonderful agent. We both have Joanna
Yes,
Castillo
yes,
as our agent. Now, I feel like I've shared my story about how I was able to get her as my agent, and I want to talk about your journey in getting Joanna as your
yeah.
agent.
I mean, talk about lottery. Seriously, winning the lottery. Uh, so yeah, so um, this the way that I met Joanna was through Twitter. So they used to have these. I don't know if they have them anymore, which is kind of sad. But they used to have these like all day events called PitMad,
Mhm.
#PitMad, and so the kind of concept was that you would write a tweet with your kind of book blurb. It had to be a tweet, just one tweet, and then you would hashtag, like the specific key code that your book was about. So hashtag HF was historical fiction, hashtag A was adult, hashtag MR was magical realism. And so you just kind of had your tweet and then your tags and PitMad, and then the publishers or agents look through, like they search the hashtags that they're interested in and read the tweets. And if they like your tweets, they basically inviting you to query them like straight away. And they had like parameters
Cool.
of what they wanted to. Yeah, so Joanna liked it. And I sent her my submission. And then I got two likes actually that day, which was really exciting because okay, by then I had two books that had gone absolutely nowhere. It had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of rejections from my failed magical fantasy books. So so I was like super excited and I emailed both these agents and they both asked for fulls, which was just absolutely ridiculously exciting. And then John asked to kind of have a phone call with me. And I didn't know that, she decides to have a phone call with you. That means that she wants to represent you. I just thought like I go online and like Google what to ask an agent if an agent wants to meet you. Like I had no idea. So I had like all these questions. They're like, you have to ask them questions, And so I said to her, um, thank you for meeting with me. And I was like, well, are you thinking about offering me? She was like, oh yes, I only meet with people that I am offering you representation. I was like, okay. But I also had this other agent. So I was like, I'm really sorry. I just need to get back to them. And but in my head, I was like, please don't rescind your offer of representation. I feel so bad. I feel so bad. But I have to like do this protocol that Google told me to do. um so yeah, that was really really cool, and that was quite quick that I got her offer, but then we were on submission for another 2 years. So yeah, so that was really, so for people that don't know maybe what submission means, that's once we had the manuscript and we were kind of sending it out to editors and trying to find a publisher for it. That was really hard. So we were looking for a publisher for 2 years before we
A
got
long 2 years, I bet.
very long,
It,
very
it's yeah, it's and the
painful.
submission is rough. Like I was so with Joanna, it was really easy for me for the first two books because I started with Joanna. She started representing me in January. And I didn't do any of that protocol that you did. I was just like immediately like, yes, like this is the agent I wanted. This was my dream agent. And I was like, yes, and I'll let others know that I've got representation. They can deal with it later. And I was like,
I
she's
was like,
immediate.
why are we putting her on hold? Like, I don't even want to put her on hold. Like, I want her so much. But yeah, I didn't know what to do. I didn't have anyone to like ask really.
Yeah. And yeah, and so my book deal for the one in red, I got in like March, like late February, early March. So it was like a quick turnaround. It was a quick snap up. And I then the following year, Grand Central bought Antoinette's sister on a pitch. So I never really truly had the submission experience
I'm
until
so glad that you did it.
oh wait,
Okay.
oh
Oh, okay.
wait, oh
Okay.
no.
Oh
It's the
no.
World War II that went out on submission, and of course the World War II in today's historical fiction market. Um, so yeah, you can imagine how that went. And so and just Joanna was just like just like okay, like it's okay, we're okay. Like the job of having to calm down the anxious author, like
Yeah, it's like half her job.
yeah, like God bless her, because I swear sometimes I put her through her paces.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, I think um it was also hard because I mean I signed my contract with her the day after I gave birth as well. So like I was like
Mm.
literally in the hospital. I signed like the contract in the hospital bed. I was like, yes, please, thank you. Partly I was like, yes, I was kind of waiting and hoping to get a publisher, but also I was like learning how to be a mom. And so it was also like half in, half out. And then she was like, let's read. Actually, one of the questions, and I don't know if I jinxed myself, but one of the Google questions that I asked her was like, what will you do if we don't kind of sell straight away? Like how will we kind of respond to that? And she just was like, oh, like it rarely happens. I was like, oh God, but she did say there were two others that it had happened and that they just like reworked it. And that's what she did. Like we reworked it. We worked like the tense. I wrote it from like present tense to past tense. And then when the adult publishers weren't working, we switched it to young adult. And then when the young adult publishers didn't work, we switched it back to adult. And so it was just kind of like this chop and change until, you know, it kind of was the right version. But that was, I guess, um, just really good that she had this plan as well. And she one day I was like, well, she's gonna dump me. Like you can't be with someone for 2 years and like get nowhere. And so I was really nervous, but she called me. She was like, how are you feeling? Like, I I don't want you to quit. She didn't want me to quit. And so that was just like, I'll never forget that. It just like really just like soothed me so much because I was like, oh no, she's in it. She's like, no, I'm in it. This is like, I'm never going to stop trying to get this book published. She was like, she's like, I'm like a dog with a bone. It's going to happen. And I was like, well, good because I am too. So that was good. So it was good to know that she's like that. She's just like really she's such a nice agent. Like, and I know that there lots of people don't have that experience. So um that's been really, really, really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, and having one that also has such credibility in the industry and has been around the
She's more
block in
famous
this
than
industry.
literally our
Yeah, like
client.
I did a thread. There was you know, there were because they're talking about something that went wrong with agents. They're like, okay, I want to hear what's good about agents. And I didn't like tag her on threads or anything. I just said her name and I was like, she does this, and this, like the good attributes. And this is why I adore my agent.
Oh, this was on threads.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
And somebody was like, she was like, yes, she was another agent who was like, yes, Joanna is like amazing. And I was like, oh yeah, there's other agents that see this too.
Yeah, they would. They have to. She's
Yeah, but having that somebody that has just as an author, especially even though like I've published 2 books, I'm still very much, as we have learned in this podcast, I am still very much a rookie in this field. Because we have talked to people who have published like 30 plus books.
yes.
I think our most was what, 32, Michelle? 33?
I think so. So
Yeah.
upwards of 30.
Yeah. And
How
those are
is
like,
that possible?
I know.
right? I'm like, I've like, I have some friends who were talking about somebody who in the past, not even like 5 or 6 years, have published 2.5 books a year was the average of books. And I was just like, how? Like, and I am the lone cat lady, but I have dogs. And I'm like putting out 1 book a year. Like the idea of putting out 1 book a year is a lot for me. Putting out 2 books a year. I'm like, my husband, like, I just sent Joanna a book this past month. And and like to get it out I started in January and I just sent it over to her. And to be able to do that, my husband had to pick up a lot of the housework because he was
Yeah.
like, all right, let's do this. That's it, if you want to do that, all right, I'll do it. And we'll like concede some stuff. So like I let the house get a little bit messy. He did whatever, like he did his own laundry. He was like, I dealt with the dishes once I got to a certain level in the dishes. That's when I was like, all right, let's go ahead and do them. So I could just focus on this book. But like 2.5 books a year, that's a lot.
A lot. That's a lot.
But going back
That's
to
a
the
lot.
original point,
Yeah.
before I get on this weird tangent, which we do, it's just having somebody who knows their stuff when you feel like such a rookie in this business is so crucial. And I feel like that's one of the big things for those out there listening who are searching for an agent. That's having somebody who understands the business and can hold your hand when you're panicking
Yeah.
is so crucial. So I
So
believe, Michelle, oh, do you
you
have a
go, you
question? So I
go.
was going to go for a super serious question.
Oh yeah, that's what you do it. That's what I was
Oh,
gonna
I
do.
did a super serious question. All right, let's just
Okay.
adjust our glasses. Let's
Yes,
prepare
you
for you.
have
This is the time where we actually get serious on
Okay.
this question. So
Oh my gosh.
Michelle likes to call me the queen of chaos. Chaos happens and it's cool. We roll with it. However, when it comes to my writing, I am very precise. I have outlines. I just started working on a book and I actually started using a spreadsheet for my outline. And I'm like very proud of myself that I did it and it's color coded. It's so happy. It makes my little heart, like my little ADD heart's like, ooh, I did something responsible. Michelle, on the other hand, she likes everything nice and neat and orderly. We were discussing before you came on about like they're getting ready to. Can I share online that you're getting ready to move and you're gonna sell your house? So you like, and
I
I just
mean, yeah, we're trying.
yeah, you're trying, and so like you're like very precise, and everything has to be orderly, especially when it comes to that. However, when it
I
comes
like
to her
lists.
writing,
I like to-do lists, and I like checking off things on my to-do list. And I will do that, where I'll add something that I've already finished just so I can cross it off.
and I'm not
That's
ashamed to admit that I went to therapy just so I could learn how to do to-do lists without giving myself anxiety. Let's just let's just go with that. Let's also talk about that. Um, and the fact that I had to go to therapy to be able to handle to-do lists.
You need therapy, you go.
Yes.
yeah.
And Michelle, however, in her writing, she likes to be surprised. Whatever happens that day is, it's just as much a surprise to her as it is to her characters. She does not do outlines at all whatsoever. She likes the
No.
chaos in the writing. So now our question to you is, are you, and I'm the pantser,
Planner or
and Michelle's
pantser?
the
Yeah.
plotter.
Yeah, that was a real, I mean, our question, it's a really long-winded way of saying, do you plan or do you pants? But I like our
Uh,
story.
Yeah,
yeah, that the story was good. I mean, you guys clearly are storytellers. Like, you don't rush the process. You don't rush the
It's a
process.
journey. We take
Yeah,
you on a
it's a
journey
journey.
with us.
Yes,
it
I
was
love it.
journey,
I
and then
love
we
it.
bring you
You
to the
guys,
7-Eleven to get a
yes.
slushie.
So I am more, I'm kind of in the middle, I think. I would like, um, I do a little bit of planning, for just like, but I don't know, maybe not. I like do like, bubbles, lots of bubbles and like, and then
That
I
counts as
do,
plotting. That counts as plotting. Even if you do a
uh-huh,
little bit, that counts as plotting. Like
okay.
pantsers are the ones who just don't do any kind of plotting whatsoever. See, this is
Okay,
where I get the
no,
one
I'm not
authors
a
who are
pure
like, I'm in the middle. I'm
pantser.
like, no, if you write it down,
No.
you are a plotter.
So like this is more like character like characteristics or goals or aims and just to kind of like get a sense of the character and I might just like freehand write with handwrite just free flow for a bit to just get a sense of like the voice and just the what the character sounds like and just kind of try if it's better past tense present tense just to kind of see what kind of fits and then once I kind of have that and I always have like some kind of idea in my head of, just like this spark of what maybe the first scene looks like or what just or a sentence or someone saying something or there's something happening. So in Daughter Five, for example, I had that dancing scene, which ended up being the second chapter. That dancing scene was like just this clear thing in my head. And I started with that. Um, but um but I've never been able to kind of plan a whole novel. And I will maybe see in my head maybe three steps ahead. And then I might write those steps, those scenes, those chapters. And then once I get there, then I have like a crash for like it might be like a week or just a few hours. And then it's like my brain just percolates something and then it's like being in the dark forest or and just you have a flashlight and you kind of see the path ahead a little bit at a time and then you think sometimes it might go somewhere but your characters might do something else so I don't plan the scenes I don't plan like when I'm writing it just comes out so I will write down what those little steps look like it might just be a word or like a dialogue or like just a picture and then like okay that's what happens next and then I'll kind of go along um and for Daughter of Fire for example I didn't know what the end was for a very long time I had no idea how it would end I don't know I had no idea for like a year and for this current one that I'm writing though it has been a bit different because that's been like it's been 3 years I've had this idea for a long time but coincidentally my son is also 3 years and so it's just very hard to kind of have the time to think and just to let your imagination go, and your tank is not really as full as it was. So, you know, I also feel like that really affects my creative process. I definitely feel like I have a tank. I definitely feel like I have a glass that if it's not, you know, filled up, then I can't, like, I can't pour anything if I don't have anything. So like that's also why it's taken so long to write this next one. And also I had to edit Daughter of Fire and had to do a lots of work for that too. So but yeah, so my answer is I'm a most, I feel like I'm more pantser. I feel like I am, but I'm not sure. Now Diana is like wanting me to choose. Like, I don't know, Diana. No,
I
I have to be
it
a
doesn't have to be
binary
black or
kind
white.
of people.
Yeah, like I feel
So,
like when it comes to plotting, like you have the roadmap to get to 7-Eleven to get the slushie, but you end up taking you take your side quests to go wherever you need to go. But having that roadmap to be able to get your slushie, being able to get back to that point, I feel like that's what makes a plot good because it's a good like guardrail. They're guidelines to be able to get you to where you want to go at the end of the story. And so that's how I always view the plots where they're not strict. I don't have to follow them to the T. So if I want to go off on something else in the book, I can, but I know how to get back. And it kind of, in some ways, in my opinion, it reduces the rabbit holes that you eventually end up having to edit out later in the book.
Yeah,
Those are my
yeah,
thoughts.
yeah.
one day we're going to write a book about how to write a book, and it's going to be called More Than One Way to Get Your Slushy.
Yes, I feel like
It's going to be like
needs to
the
be the
Wine
book.
Women Words writing master class.
I love it. Yes, I will definitely be reading that. Um,
And to close out this podcast episode, because I feel like we've gone over the half hour. I don't know.
Just a little bit,
I didn't
slightly.
notice when we started recording. My bad. I'm sorry. Um, so the last question that we've really enjoyed asking other authors is, what are you currently reading?
Okay, so I am actually reading right now, so that's good to know that I have an answer to this question. I'm reading The Truth According to Amber, which is a new debut novel
Oh,
by Danica Nava. She's a member of the Chickasaw Nation, and she wrote this. I think it's the first traditionally published romance novel about in Native American with Native American protagonists. So it's coming out, I think, also in like mid-August, and I
What's the name
managed
of
to
it
get
again?
The Truth According to Amber. Yeah, yeah. So I'm reading that. It's been very funny so far. I mean, I haven't gotten to the hot bits yet, but but so far it's really, really funny, and I'm enjoying it. I needed kind of like this light, funny read right now. So that's really nice. Yeah.
I
it's such
love
a
it. And
dangerous question because it's just another book now. But I mean, it's a good thing.
Yes.
It's a good problem to have.
we've
Yes.
added so many books to our to be read list because of that question.
Yeah.
And we've also gone on some tangents about some books that we've loved too. Uh,
Do you
not
have
gonna lie, but
like
like,
a you know, what is that? Not Goodreads, the other bookshop. Should like make like a bookshop reading list with all of the answers that you get. That'd be
Ooh,
so good.
that's a
we do
good
have a bookshop.
idea.
Yeah.
We do have a bookshop.
Yeah.
Um, but I love that idea.
Author current reads. Ooh, we might do that. Thank you.
Yeah,
You're
that's a good
welcome.
idea. I know
Oh,
we need to update our bookshop. We haven't updated it in a while.
We've been been a nice calm summer. I think everyone needs, to just coast for a little bit, and we've been coasting, and it's been nice.
good. Yeah, everyone needs some coasting and refill that
Yes.
cup. Yes,
Right,
yes, yes,
exactly.
yes.
And so by the time this comes out next week, Daughter of Fire will be out in the world. So congratulations and
Thank
happy
you.
debut week.
Hmm.
And
Thank you.
just thank you so much for making some time for us tonight and coming to hang
No,
out.
thank you for making time for me and inviting me. You guys are so lovely. I've had such a nice time. This is so nice. In my
Oh, thank you.
pajamas, just like chilling with you guys. It's the best chat.
I feel like that is the only way to talk about books in your pajamas
Yes.
with something enjoyable to drink and just chatting about books. We don't need to be in stuffy libraries and being all dressed up to talk about the things that we love.
Yeah, I agree. I like this. Okay, okay. Well, whenever you guys want me back, I'm happy to come back
Cool. Next book. How
Absolutely.
about this? The next book, if that'll help with getting you moving for the next
Oh,
book.
oh
When the next book
yes.
comes out, we'll have you on.
Okay, that sounds so good. Guys, so, so lovely to meet you. Thank you so much.
Wonderful to meet you as well.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.